Welcome, Shopomaniacs, to episode 666 of the Shop Talk Show. I'm Dave the Dark Lord Rupert, and with me is Christopher Coyer.
Christopher?
Christopher. That's Lucifer's brother, who's even worse. He's even meaner.
I write bad HTML. I don't know. Let's
yeah,
get it.
He doesn't validate his code. He's the worst.
On that note, I do have a slight correction from previous episodes. Members of the accessibility community reached out to me to explain to me that I made it sound like I was criticizing. Well, I did criticize Sarah's article, but long article on why carousels aren't great. People reached out and said I made it sound like it was the accessibility community's fault that inaccessible stuff was shipping. I just want to say that wasn't my intent at all. My intent is really like Sarah should have never had to write that article in the first place. Why? Or Google should have paid Sarah big money to like do this behind the scenes, you know, not in public. So that's what I want to say there. Just like part of like, I think there's not really like a both sidesism. It's like people are pushing things out, you know, like trying to get to the bottom of why, you know, is kind of the question I'm asking as an independent journalist. But,
right. And we also heard the flip side of it is that there was actually a lot of accessibility work done on it too, right? It's not like they just winged it and threw it out. It was worked on for a tremendous amount of time. And it was literally tested with people that need, you know, what do you even
technology.
Say that? Yeah. So it's not like that. It's not like they threw away the accessibility process. Was it done to the rigor, apparently, of everything? Or and then in one case, it's like, what are the trade-offs too? You know, like, were decisions made that were like, we can't actually make this perfect right now because it's like one change benefits one group and not the other? And is there some of that stuff going on? It sounded like there was.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna. Like I mostly just care like what's the gap? What's the gap? Why did that happen? What you know? And then how did it happen? What were the processes? I almost wish, you know, like we could show our homework a bit more. You know what I mean? That I feel like that would go a long way in this whole sort of like when people release
the Y
features.
Column, man. Why is it like this way?
Why is it the Y column again? The whole show. Renaming Shop Talk Show to the Y column. That's a spin-off podcast.
I do think about it a lot. Maybe we could co-write a book, Dave. That'd be a good one.
No, it's the Y column all over again. I had a Y column this week. It was like we had to like redo a API thing, you know, and it's or like the like slots on a web component, and it was just like it would be sure great to have a Y column, you know.
Yeah. I've been more and more annoying about it at work. I like held up a PR forever because I was like, no, in this file at the top of the file, you know, you put /* return / and then write out why the rest of the file is this way. Like I just won't even merge it until that's in there. That links to where more information. If it's like too cumbersome for one file, then you can link out. And like even if it's Notion, I don't love that. I'd prefer that it like references a .md in the code base somewhere so it doesn't just get lost over time. But that's okay. Like if it has to be a Notion because we're just a small company and that's the way it is, fine, or something. But it was like a list of plugins, and we are making a you know, like semi-dramatic change to the list in there. And I'm like, we're gonna wonder, because I already wonder why the list of plugins was the way it was now. And if we're gonna chop it up and change it, why now? I don't understand then. I'm not going to understand again in the future. Just like tell me why. And it's, you know, we call it the Y column because we often talk about database changes. But in this case, it's not a column, but it's a line of something. It's like
a Y line. Y line.
A Y line?
Instead of byline, it's Y
Yeah,
line.
but I think as for a book title, the Y column is almost
The
better.
Y column. Yeah, it really strikes over and over again. So that's again, I am definitely on the side of like more accessible experiences. I'm just, how do we get there? What happened? What was the breakdown? Some people are saying like it needs to be totally reverted. And I'm like, okay, that seems. I don't doubt that feeling, but like that seems like extreme. So like what's salvageable, what's not, what
that seems
can
knee jerk, right?
Because
what
yeah.
If that's the case, I would agree with that case if you took two carousels, one side by side, that were feature for feature exactly the same, and showed me that the one with X amount of JavaScript in it is absolutely better in all ways than the one that doesn't have any. Because it's like there is an inherent advantage to the new style of carousels, and it's not just because they don't ship with JavaScript, although that is a huge advantage. Mm-hmm. Show me a JavaScript carousel that works without JavaScript. It's not happening. It's inherently an untruth. So that there is already better. And then it's like, you could point at accessibility problems, but like, are they really? Then I want to see that too. Not a theoretical one, a one where somebody using assistive technology is like, dang, I can't use this. I don't understand what's happening. I want to see that too, because the theoretical ones bug me a little.
And I think, too, like it should not be on accessibility professionals to just like volunteer their spare time to do this, and like It shouldn't be like
money.
Oh, hey, we sent out an email on a listserv a month ago, and no one replied, so we put it out. It shouldn't be like that either, like, and I know these are like multi-year long processes, but just, but even like, I think it's a symptom of a larger problem. Like when I see it also happen in like some big name company, like Figma sites, like I'm like, why did that happen? Like what, how do we fix this at the root? And then I was thinking about too, like when I watched the Figma keynote, they're like, hey, and guess what? You can get contrast ratios inside the color picker. And they're like, audience cheers, right? Like this minor feature, people are just like, yeah, and it's like, clearly this is a value to your customers. Let's deliver that whole story end to end, So I think like people
there's a process that's difficult. Yeah, because it's like even nobody has to do anything here, including the browser makers and spec people. It's all a very the incentives are all kinds of weird.
Yeah, it's like really upside down. It's like, yeah. And then the only like incentive that seems to work is like, don't get sued, instead of like, build it the freaking right way. Anyway. Okay, that's enough.
Well, it's 666 here at the Shop Talk Show. Obviously, the Satan introduced us to it. I always liked that, how Satan is painted as like he's literally the Antichrist, right? So the worst, like the worst thing you can be to a dyed-in-the-wool Christian is clearly a Satanist, right? But it's always that classic thing where like, well, at least you all agree about the religion, like you almost have more in common with each other than anything else. At least you're kind of on board with the major characters at play.
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah. It's like I want anyway, sorry. I want to join a group of like-minded individuals, but not the Christians. We are doing the Dark Lord. Okay, guys?
Yeah.
So
the torture one?
Want to spend all Sunday doing sex stuff and candles, okay? That's what. And then, but not that one.
I just like 6-pointed stars. They just appeal to me. Or is it 5? I can't even remember now.
5-pointed,
Jews, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Ouch. The 5-point, and then there's like goats, and these are things I know about Satanism.
Right.
Goats. And then there's the magic number 666, which is this episode. So
this episode, we thought we'd do something a little special. Maybe we can get into some of the aside from accessibility hell,
Yeah.
HTML crap, CSS crap, UX crap, weirdnesses in it. You know, let's dig into the 666 of the web platform, you know?
Yeah.
We're not even going to touch JavaScript math, but that would be related, certainly,
What are
somehow.
the purely evil parts?
Yeah. Let's just start with dark patterns, you know? Like, is that... Because it does feel like almost like literally evil. Like somebody with their fingers in their brain... as a team or whatever, they decided we are intentionally going to make this worse because it helps our KPI or something. A very classic one is it's just cancellation of anything. Businesses are literally incentivized to make it hard to cancel, sort of. Or at least you can paint that picture pretty easily. I mean, it's going to make for unhappy customers, but probably in the short term, it's going to be great for your numbers. If you literally just can't cancel a product, obviously that's going to be amazing. Huge churn buster. Yeah, you just never can. You just only chargebacks is the only way or something. And sometimes it feels like that is about your recourse. I had one just this week, Dave. I have a long time account on an app called LegalZoom. I probably have been paying for it for like 15 years because I just used it for a long time ago to make the like LLC that CSS Tricks was under, and I never really dissolved it or something. I still find it useful to have it. I call my thing Midwest Coast Studios. And I only use it for like business stuff. So if like a conference has to cut me a check or whatever, they cut it to Midwest Coast Studios, and then it's all business stuff. And then having a business is useful because there's write-offs and stuff. If I'm going to fly somewhere for vaguely business reasons, then I can write it off. But you can only really write it off if it's, I don't know. I find it easier to do if you have like an LLC to do it under. I don't know if that, I'm not like a tax expert or something, but that's why I have it. Anyway, I had that account for a long time, and it renews at something that's like too much for my blood. You know, it's like $500 or something a year. But they do stuff like they like automatically mail in some paperwork to make sure your business is like still a business in the state it needs to be and stuff. It's not like they do nothing. And generally as a company, I think that it was useful. It was useful then. I think they do a kind of a classy job of it, but then commit this ultimate sin of it's just not really even possible to cancel online. Because as you go to cancel it, it's not like that you can't. It's just they say, okay, well, we are your legal daddy or whatever. And if you want to cancel, then you need to prove to us that you have a new legal daddy or something. You have to like submit the paperwork that
you
does that.
New legal representation.
Like, I don't even know. I don't even know if I care. Like I don't even care. I just want to cancel. Like, let me figure that out. Or the business has dissolved or something. And in that case, you have to submit the paperwork that proves that the business is dissolved just to cancel a thing. I was like, watch how Amex is able to cancel it, because that's what's going to happen now. Like, I don't want to prove anything to you. That seems silly to me. It almost feels illegal. Like, I don't know. Right. I just want to not pay you any money. I don't need to prove anything to you. It's my business is my business. I think that's a hell of a sin.
Yeah. Like, you have another note about like canceling newsletters or whatever. I feel like my thing is like opting out of privacy, like ad tracking. You know, it's not like just click a button on your browser, do not track, because all the trackers were like, oh, we don't obey do not track. That would be too easy to opt out. Instead, you have to go to each individual service and say, no, like remove any information you have about me, you know, and they're like, oh, it'll take 4 to 6 weeks to get that done, you know? I feel like that's a dark pattern, or just like the default is wrong. Does that make sense? Like the default is like, we can slurp up your data, and then you have to go to 500 different services to say, don't slurp up my data. You know, I feel like that's just upside down. So I wish it was more like, hey, can we like
you opt out of things?
Yeah. Hey, can we scan your contact book and steal all these email addresses? And you'd be like, yeah, please do. Yeah. The email thing.
That's just a simple one too, and it happens all the time. Like when you check out and there's a checkbox that has something to do with a newsletter or communication or of some kind, is it checked if you don't want any communication, which is probably true, like I don't need a text from REI or whatever. I need to really carefully read it because there's no standard that says checked or unchecked is the one where you don't get the communication. It just depends on how they worded it, which just feels silly. But, because there's no standard, because we've ruined it over time, apparently, you can kind of get it that you have to read it. But then sometimes even the writing is intentionally misleading. It'll use like a double negative, or it'll just be confusing in some kind of way instead of really clear. You'd think the perfect way to do it, and whatever, I'm sure I've committed this sin in the past too, is it's unchecked by default, and checking it means to opt in.
I want it, right?
And it should just say I am okay with communication or something like that,
Yeah.
But it's like, do you want to not get this newsletter?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh, I need to mind map this.
Check this to not receive thing.
Right.
You need a logic puzzle to opt out of an email. My thing too is, just generally speaking, this is what grinds my gears section for me, I guess, what grinds my gears is we did commerce once online and you get to email me for the rest of my life? No. If you go to some bodega in New York on a work trip, they don't get to knock on your door every day and say, hey, do you like bodega? You want a cheese sandwich, pimento cheese sandwich? They don't get to do that, right? The rules of commerce are: I come in, I buy something, I leave. But now with the internet, e-commerce, everything online, it's I shop with you once, I hear from you for the rest of my life. This sucks. It just burns down goodwill.
A slightly different opinion in that, yes, but. Mostly, I want that unsubscribe link absolutely needs to work and work instantly in your thing.
Yeah.
And even then, I could see you disagreeing with me, but I stay on top of that stuff good enough. But if you don't respect that, which is obviously the case many times, I still get newsletters that I didn't opt into at all, and that the cancel button does nothing. And then what? Then you're in this position where if I want to not hear from you, to some degree, my only reasonable recourse is an email filtering rule. It says emails from this address need to go. And that's just way too much work because you bought a banana at a bodega or whatever, you're saying.
Yeah.
That's really kind of unacceptable. Unfortunately, fighting that fight in which to win a sane email inbox is a hill I'm willing to I don't know if hill to die on is the right metaphor, but I'm willing to go to war to make sure my inbox is pretty good.
Yeah. I work really hard at it, but my inbox is trashed, man. The worst one is actually my Luro email because something happened, I'll tell you exactly. LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. So I feel like maybe that email address leaked out through LinkedIn. I'm not sure. I need to verify that. But I feel like on LinkedIn, people can just buy bunches of emails and start emailing people. But we also talk to a bunch of venture capital companies, and so I wonder if those guys build these email lists, and then sell these email lists. And I'm
they do.
That is and I don't know who they bought it from. So I can't get this. I can't the only solution is to close down my startup.
List.
So yeah, I'm on entrepreneur list,
and those you can't really unsubscribe from. Which it's spam. I don't know. It's tricky, right? Because it's here. I'm looking at one right now, and I love throwing these people under the bus because I really don't care. This is from Stella Martin. Stella at 10studiolive.com. Hi, Chris. I was looking at CodePen. I was really intrigued with how you showcase creativity and innovation effortlessly. Animated explainer videos can enhance CodePen's platform by visually demonstrating the creative and innovative coding solutions in an engaging and easily understandable manner. Mind if I send over some example videos? Thanks, Stella from 10 Studio. I don't know you, Stella. I don't think that you saw CodePen and were intrigued at how we showcase creativity, innovation effortlessly. You have no idea who CodePen is. This to me is spam. You probably sent this email to thousands of people or something. But there was like a little, it's like on the edge of spam, because spam I generally think of as like it goes to millions of people. It's like penis enlargement stuff or that kind of thing. But this is on the edge of that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Stella got my email from one of your bros. Like for sure. I'm just Chris at codepen.io is on some business list. Chris is a decision maker at CodePen. So they buy the list and they send it out, and it probably even works like a little bit. Because I bet 10 Studio Live probably does make animated explainer videos or whatever. They just need some leads. So they're willing to just do whatever to get those leads, you know? Like, I doubt this is a full-on spam, you know? But like it reads as spam. You don't have, but at the same time, like, when do you need permission to email somebody and when do you not? You know, because you don't. Like if I wanted to reach out to Stella at 10 Ludio Live because they provide that email and I saw their work online and I thought it was cool and wanted to see if there's any collab thing we can do. That's what email is. That's why I like email. So this email's right on this line of spam and a thing that I like, which is when you just reach out to people with a message and ask things.
There's probably a kernel of a business behind it. I think it's probably like they are just farming it out to like Mechanical Turk and like doing heartless work. Like that's like if you are heartless enough to email me and thousands of people, you are a heartless company. That's like
right. You founded an AI model that does these things okay. And you found that you can charge around $900 and people don't bat an eye really, and you can just farm them out or whatever, something like that. Sure.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're just the nicest damn people in the world and they just made a weird mistake with how to communicate with people or something. It's really hard to know. But of course I will never respond to this.
Yeah.
Even if I was in the market for an animated explainer video, I would not use this company just because I got this email, probably. Because I'd just be like, I don't like how you roll.
That, if replying to that sends a signal that you're a friggin' sucker, and so now you're not just on the entrepreneur list, you're on the sucker list for any future heist that they want to try to run. It just, I don't know. We should run this scam.
Tricky.
And we should just start collecting these emails and start emailing people fake business opportunities that they can't unsubscribe from. Like, hey, looks like your website's crud. You want AI website? Or whatever.
But I assume, is this the kind of crap you'd get at Luro too, though? Like, it's kind of like, it's not really spam, but it's kind of spam.
Hey, man, we help B2B SaaS. We'd like to grow your enterprise, you know. Oh, you need help hiring? No,
I
dude.
can get you 1,000
we shut the
today.
company down. You dork. The website's offline. Like, just, anyway, it's just.
Yeah, not a grain of sand of actual effort to be found there.
Yeah, you're not, like. It takes effort to win business. Maybe I'm like this old school person, but it takes effort to win business. You have to know who you're talking to, know your customer. You can't just, is that how the world works? It's like, dude, I got an email about like, like I could get 5,000 new customers today. This just sounds like a great plan. It's like, anyway,
Yeah, you gotta be careful too of who you align with too, because sometimes I'll get these things and then they'll talk about like who's already sponsoring them or other companies they've worked with, and you kind of look and you're like, ooh, I think you do actually work with them, and it makes that company look terrible, I think. And from a podcast perspective, I know we make fun of this all the time, but that happens too. They're like, you got to get the CEO of airline industries on here. That means airline industries sucks to me.
Yeah, like the CEO has spare time. I hope not. Like, I hope they're friggin' busy, dude.
Right, they need to be saying no to invites from
like
big
niche podcasts. Yeah. To like
not the other way around.
Yeah. Anyway, this economy of fake is just gross to me. I don't know. I was thinking about like our old friend Alan Branch, who's now like mayor of Panama City, which is awesome. Florida.
High five, Alan. Good job. I don't know if we've mentioned it on the show, but I am very proud of him. He's such a cool dude.
I'm proud, and I do think we need to all fly to Panama City and do shenanigans and put him in a morally precarious situation. So
Yeah.
oh,
Totally.
you got
He's
20 computer programmers graffitiing and stuff on the beach. What are you gonna do, Alan?
Yeah.
You
We're like banging on the door of a Buffalo Wild Wings at 2 a.m. with like a giant golden key. I'm like, I got the key to the city. My buddy Alan gave me this. Make me some wings.
It's made of chocolate. Yeah. I think we should all do that.
That'd be great.
But like, imagine you're Alan and you're trying to drum up business for your less accounting service. Like he almost certainly like cold emailed people, but I think what made that business successful or grew it was just him having a place in the community and being relational and helping people. And like, I feel like that was the magic, good old fashioned talking to people, not this like, I created this email app that cold emails everybody or steals your credit cards and stuff, like.
Right. And then you're working on that, not the quality of your product. I don't know. It says a lot, though, if you're willing to be that trashy about what you're doing. Probably not that good. But it's hard. And you can relate to the struggle because building something great and having nobody care about it is a bummer.
I will say, I think Paravel or Luro, I should say, if I try to like retro all the issues we had with Luro, like one of them is we were probably too precious about just emailing people, like blasting people. I think there is this like if you're gonna do a startup, I guess undoing everything I've just said, you have to be very comfortable with emailing people out of the blue. Like that has to be like.
Well, but
not
you can respect. That means you're still respecting you're respecting opt-outs, and you're not doing dark patterns and stuff. There's a way to be bold in your communication without being like slimy or against the law.
Right. I think there is like, and there's preferred communications. I don't sign up for newsletters on email. I do it in my RSS feed, but like I don't sign up for email newsletters because I just know that's too much noise for me. But some people love to get internet that way. And so, different stroke for different folks, I guess. But
yeah, that one is interesting to me. Then we should almost do a show about that, like the newsletter revolution of the last, say, 5 years. Like what is it about that communication style that made it as successful as it has been?
Yeah.
Unsure.
Well, I think some of it's monetization too. I mean, like you can monetize a newsletter, like charge $5 to be on the list, so, people are kind of like sending out their gems.
Definitely part of the story.
So I think that's a good way to do it. So,
all right. Well, there's a great 666 related website. I'm sure you've all been there because this is a bubble and we all know the same things, called html.dev. Hell. Yeah, amazing website. Don't they spin it up like once a year or something? Did they do?
I felt like it was kind of like an advent calendar, a anti-advent calendar.
Yeah, so I guess we'll look forward to it in 2025, maybe, if there's, enough contributions or they feel like doing it again. But a bunch of posts on there, mostly of just like, basically they're snippets of HTML that suck, but are at the same time relatable, or you've seen them before. It's not just like absolute slop or something. It's like, oh, I can see what somebody was thinking there, and they really schlubbed it. I like number 31 is a pretty funny one to me, where it's an anchor link that just says contact, but the ARIA label is like very long piece of string that just says, if you need additional assistance in navigating the website, please call our customer service line. And then it says, title equals, if you find that you need additional assistance in navigating everything. And then there's a link that says login. ARIA label. If you need assistance or additional, it's like the repeated, tell them or whatever. When you call a phone number and the automated computer voice is giving you not very useful information. It's that as a big long sentence just slapped into the attributes.
Spammed in. Yeah.
Spammed in. Hilarious.
It is funny. This, I think we were kind of talking before the show, but it's funny how like bad HTML it sends this like it broadcasts a signal to me that like you don't care. Again, back to like the not caring, right? Like you just don't care what ends up here, at all. But I would say HTML is super forgiving. Like HTML lets you write bad code all the time and it fixes it for you. Like it's like, oh, you put a div and a p tag, don't worry, bud. I can fix it. It's weird how it does that, right? Like it just figures it out for you. So
yeah, to the point of, I mean, there's different severities of problems. Like and sometimes they're not even problems. I think that's a fun one. You know how you like don't have to close a p tag. That's like okay for some reason. And it's actually not a validation problem. I mean, it can have weird circumstances, but they tend to auto close when it hits another block level element. But use the HTML validator. I know that's probably not. Do people do that anymore? I find myself doing it once in a while because it's kind of like I'm like a little bit unsure what the problem is here, and like maybe if I do that, it'll give me like a lead on what the problem might be.
I think I could stand to do it more. Like sneak it into like some tests, like
sure,
like just make sure I didn't put a div in a button or whatever, right?
Yeah, because it will catch little silly stuff. It feels like it's a little noisy because sometimes it cares whether you auto close or don't elements. You're like, okay, I put a slash at the end of my meta tag. Like, I don't consider that a big problem. Like, don't even tell me. I don't care. Maybe I should a little bit, but maybe there should be some mode that turns those type of warnings off because I'm looking for signal, not noise. And it does have like a different, severity thing. There's kind of like info bubbles and warning bubbles and stuff, but still, defaults matter. So showing me 50 things where I accidentally put type equals text / JavaScript on a script that, was just injected by not me anyway. I'm like, I don't care. I know you know what that means. Like putting it there or not putting it there has no implications on the usability of this website.
Yeah.
Okay. What was I going to say though? I was using this, just a minor aside, is because I have this family website that they found that when they clicked over from Facebook on iOS, it opened up a link to their website in an in-app browser, or like a WebKit view or Safari Kit view or something. I think there's two different ones. It's very confusing to me. But I have recently read research and things on how bad in-app browsers can be, and there's a number of reasons for that. One of them is like you can't even see the URL. It's like this very like limited, crappy browser experience. But in this case, it showcased an amazingly bad experience in that it didn't load any JavaScript or CSS on the website, so the website looked like a disaster. So, and it's an e-commerce website, so they're going to make zero sales on that link ever, because it's screwed up, right? So if you take that link and you open it in just regular Safari, because we all know it's the same browser, right? On no matter what, when you're on iOS, for better or worse, probably worse, that it just loaded up fine in regular Safari. So there's a difference between whatever Facebook's in-app browser was doing and Safari itself. So how do you possibly know what the problem is? And the answer, you helped me out a little bit. You pointed me to an app on the iOS store that would let you open up a URL in one of those views. Guess what? You can open up in either of those views and it looked fine. So there's a difference now. Now there's three differences.
Now there's a third heat. Yeah.
You're like, okay, great. But there was no way. And you can plug in your phone and you can open up Safari DevTools and look and see if it becomes one of the inspectable applications or whatever. It doesn't. Those don't show up there.
Didn't work. Well,
no. So there's no way. There's no debuggability at all for this in-app browser, which to me is just horrendous. And to this day, it's a problem. I have not gotten to the bottom of this yet. But one of the things I did was come to the HTML validator just to see, is there some low-hanging fruit here that we could clean up that somehow maybe fixes it? I don't know. I was that's how grasping for straws I was. But it did remind me, and this is why I'm thinking about it, that you bring up, is HTML so forgiving? Every website, just absolutely 99.9999% of websites, if you put them into this HTML checker, are going to have some kind of at least warning that it spits out, if not a bunch of errors and stuff. Like, it's just going to happen. And it's weird to say, but it's almost kind of a strength of HTML that it's so tolerant of these problems.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't, you can chuck a lot of crap at it. You can not close your LIs and it'll figure that out. You can not close your P tags, it figures it out, it's weird and but it works, that's the, and then even now, we're getting into interactivity, dialogue and popover and details and things like that. You can have kind of a stateful application in HTML, you're entering and exiting different UI states, so that's kind of cool. Command 4 is going to kind of change things too. Maybe you need less script to bind stuff up and make things do things. You just, I don't know, you want your own custom play button. You just make button command 4 video player and then command play, That's cool. So,
pretty good. I love that invoker stuff. It's great.
It's gonna. I think it's close, right? I haven't checked on it in a while. Can I? I think it's in like a rocky state, in what they're I mean,
it changed at one point too. So there's a problem with that, where some browsers are stuck in the middle with you or whatever.
Yeah, and, it looks like it's in Chrome and Edge, I guess. So,
but it's going to be thing is, it's not like it's
Safari
supported or not supported, because some of it is like a generic system of that, which hooks into your own JavaScript functions you make available. Some of it started with pretty modal specific stuff. So that's going to have its own set of browser support. Then then it also connects to popovers. Is that what we're calling them? Yeah. And I think those are probably mostly going to travel together, but I don't think they are yet. I think there's differences in the support there. And then there's stuff that people just want. I remember Jeremy Keith is really hot on having the share API have an invoker, so that you could just have a share button that you need no JavaScript at all to open up a shared. Will that happen at some point? I bet it will. But that's so it's hard to say because right now I think actually the dialogues have the most support. So you could almost get away with using JavaScript free opening of modals, but not quite, not entirely.
Yeah, we're not.
That'll happen first, but it'll be far away from supporting other things that have to do with invokers. So tricky. But it's a great API.
Yeah. No, it should be anyway. I wondered though, is it going to get worse before it gets better? Is it going to are we going to put out a lot more HTML? Or is it going to be easier because now people are paying attention to it more? Because I wonder. We'll get a whole new generation of HTML tooling. That'd be cool. So, yeah. Where should we move next? We have a lot of
there's
evil
there's
in
HTML.
the platform.
Yeah, we do. I was thinking about the mistake stuff a little bit. Just I don't know. Feels like a while since we brought this up, but if you aren't aware of it, which most people are, there's just the greatest document in the world is the list of CSS mistakes. It's the most hardcore. It's very plain language.
It's on the W3C, right?
It is.
It's
it's a wiki on the working group wiki. So I don't know how, but it's it's linked to quite a bit. But it has some it calls people out. Hyphens property should have been called hyphenate. It's called hyphens because the XSL:FO people objected to hyphenate. It's just a little salty, you're those people didn't want it. That's why it's bad, which I love, obviously.
Where are they now?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, who wrote this sentence? Who are those people? Yeah, I don't even know what XSLFO people are. Anyway, every single one on this list is kind of like interesting. I find, in a way. There's some classics that I latched onto the first time I saw this document. That box sizing border box. And it's an opinion that it was a mistake that's not the default, which it is.
Yeah.
And things like that. Do you have any favorites on here? Another favorite of mine is border radius should have been corner radius, which is also true.
Yeah, actually, I'll give that. Yeah. White space no wrap. The number one, white space no wrap, which is no hyphen, should be white space no dash wrap. And that one, I agree. That gets me probably weekly. Like no repeat, no wrap, white dash space. No,
yeah, lean into the dashes. CSS
no
is
space.
dash heavy. Let's just dash it up. There's another dash one in here. What was it there? The current color should have been current dash color instead of the weird single word thing that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. These kind of like always. Yeah, it's funny how like the style guide like falls apart. The thing that gets me, this is maybe a little outside of CSS, but we had popover open. We had we had details open first, right? Details open, and the way to open a details is you call the open method on a details in JavaScript, right? And it had an open attribute, which people in spec land really hate. Because it's weird. You can change HTML to affect like the state, or the state has to, it's like a reflective attribute. It has to mirror what the current state is, kind of like checked. So what I don't like about, so that was open, and then dialog comes along, and dialog's like, we're going to have close. We like close. We are not, we're doing show modal. We're doing show and show modal. And then popover comes along and like, hey, we're not doing, I know it's just like a modal dialogue, but we're going to do open. We're going to do popover open, or not even open. It's like, or what is it? It's show popover and hide popover, I think is what the methods are.
Oh gosh, is it
so
really?
It's popover, show popover, hide popover, and toggle popover. And those get me. Those are like nails on a chalkboard for me. Just that, like, we have these three controls that basically do the same action. Show modal's a little unique, I guess, but like
I know, but it should have been show, and you pass in a keyword or something. Because why is it
modalless dialogues is stupid. Get it out of the platform. Get it out. I don't want it. That's stupid. What do you need? What are you not modeling a dialogue for? You're just
non-modal ones.
Yeah.
I guess it's. I don't know.
A drawer
it's
component,
almost,
maybe, but
yeah,
whatever.
like the slide out navigation, maybe. But then it's like there's lots of elements that can accommodate that. So the only reason you'd use this is because you get these freebie commands. Mm-hmm. And then it makes me like, well, why don't we get these freebie commands on everything? Which leads me to my thinking on that, like, well, what you're basically doing is you're toggling an element between like display none and display X something. Kind of, right? And I like this has been a great evolution of the web platform, is that now we can literally display none something and then turn it back on. I think that should be decoupled. I really don't like that it's like you hide something and you say display none on it, which is very important because it removes it from the accessibility tree and all that stuff, which you probably want to do for totally hidden content usually. And then but as soon as you put it back, you have to just like remember essentially what display type it was. That sucks. Oh, yeah. You're like, oh, it's display flex, so it needs to go back to being display flex. You can't go display block, or it could totally ruin its thing. So that should have been decoupled.
Well, and
right.
And we have
but
all
then
those,
why don't
like,
we have those?
Oh, go ahead. Finish.
Well, why don't we have those nice little functions for it then? Like why? Like dialog gets them. Why doesn't a div get them?
Right, like a hide function or whatever. That
div also doesn't get href. So what's up with that? Like, what if any element could just have an href on it and it had that kind of behavior? What's so bad about that? That would, anyway.
Yeah. Well, like those like, we have a bunch of like revert, unset, all these things, right? But nothing is like, no property is like, just put it back to what it was. Like, just before I showed up, put it back to what it was, like, like display oops or display
Revert or
undo.
whatever, but that's not going to work. Cause...
Display just kidding. I don't know. Like, why don't we have anything like that? It would be cool if we had something like that.
I mean, you kind of do, because what you do is you go like dialogue square brackets open. That's when you set the display type you want, and then when it's not open,
you just don't, hands off, right? Like,
yeah, it's display, or you put display none on it in that case.
Yeah.
But then at least you don't have to remember or apply it in JavaScript or anything. It just becomes a CSS concern, which it probably should be. So much.
So much. Yeah,
This is how Satan wanted it, though.
Yeah. I love confusion in the platform. That is so Dark Lord. CSS is max Dark Lording right now. It's so great. Yeah, they don't. Go ahead.
It wasn't in the. Well, I remember I didn't scroll back through every single HTML hell article though, but I do think about it and see somewhat regularly this idea that, like, what I think is it's somebody that's like in between learning this stuff. They want to do a good job, and they're like, oh, those things that are clickable should be a button or something, and then but they need it to be. Buttons don't have href on them, because they just don't, which sure would be nice if they could, but they don't. But you want it to like look like a button, or seems like it should behave like a button, but it doesn't go to another URL, and you need it to. So you wrap the button in an A, and then I'm curious whether is that worse? Is it possible to decide which is worse, an A wrapping around a button, or a button that has an A inside of it? Or are they just equal abominations?
Ooh, those are evil. Yeah. Well, and it's funny, again, back to HTML lets you do it, right? Like, you don't know. You don't know. And 9 times out of 10, Chris, that link works. Like, the link inside the button works. It just is totally. Like, I got you, bud. I do what you're trying to do, And how do you? I just.
And then is that because I think you mentioned it? Is it part of the success of the language? It's just how incredibly fault tolerant it is. It must be the most fault tolerant language ever.
Yeah, like I honestly I don't think it would be successful if it was like strict. Imagine your first experience making a website and there's just console barf, like, or that red frame around the page, like you didn't write HTML good, like we would have never had WYSIWYGs, which are also an abomination. Thank you very much.
Well, I looked at one of those HTML hell ones, and it had a P tag, and then it had a dot, like a what do you call
mid
that?
Dot
Option 8.
Yeah, okay.
Just a bullet, I guess, is just an actual character. It's not rendered by CSS. And then a BR tag, and then another bullet, and it's like a list item. And I saw that, and I was like, WYSIWYG. That's how I've used WYSIWYGs that rocked like that. Yeah.
Pleases the Dark Lord's soul. I don't have a soul, but you get it. You get the idiom.
Yeah.
That is good. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have, like, it would have been great from dude, look at all this beautiful code that's going to the client. That would have been great, but we would, if HTML, I think, was like strict mode only, like strict mode in the sense it wouldn't render if it was strict. We had HTML strict. Like, we should pause and talk about that. Like, we did have a strict version of XHTML that would like yell at you quite a bit, or just like
did it? I remember it.
Like,
I remember
validated
what the
in
like.
Flight. Like, it could be like validated as you write. Like, you must close this or whatever. But
right.
But like, so we had strict HTML for a bit, but then like HTML5 comes along, is like, no, it's called lightning bolt doc type or whatever. And we don't do that anymore. We don't need to do that. And so.
No, it was. I would say it was It was like the cool one for a while. Not only did we have it, but it was it felt like recommended that you use that. Yeah, HTML strict.
Well, it performed in the validator, the best and things like that. So it was kind of the cool kid in town. And
I remember feeling weird when I was like, "We're gonna just be way less strict about stuff." And you're like, "Are you sure that's better?"
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, imagine like I, work in Go fairly regularly, and like if there's anything wrong at all, you get nothing. You need to stop and you need to fix what's going on, and then the Go compiler will work with you, which is as far away as can be to HTML, but like imagine a world like what if HTML was so strict that it, JavaScript is maybe a middle case, like, well, it'll execute some stuff until it comes across a major problem that it has to throw, and then it stops executing JavaScript, kind of a middle ground between the two. But what if it was so strict, that it was validated? Would that be kind of a net gain? And, because you can't imagine that that's good, right? That every website, instead of the statistic I quoted where absolutely every website has validation problems on it, it would be the reverse. Absolutely zero websites would have validation problems on it. Would that be cool because this code is just so squeaky clean all the time? Maybe, but there'd probably be about 8 websites.
Yeah, there'd be 8 websites for 3 companies, It would not be, I don't think that future is a good future for the web. I do think this sort of like, I don't know, HTML's kind of lax processor of like, we're going to try to figure it out, And then you like layer in CSS's like processor that's kind of like this middle ground of like, hey, we're gonna apply every property we see until we don't understand what you wrote, and then we're just ignore that. We're just ignoring the parts we don't get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like HTML's like, oh, we got you, bud. We'll fix it for you. CSS is like, I'm just gonna pretend that didn't happen, and then JavaScript's like, oh, you left a bracket out. I'm dead. Bye. Like, oh, you put a comma at the end of some JSON. I have to go,
That's my least favorite one. I'm like, come on, Jason.
Jason.
It's just a comma at the end.
Jason,
you can do this.
You can deal with commas, bud. You deal with them all the time.
I know you can do it.
No.
Yeah, that was it was a big project. I was probably like a year and a half ago. I wrote this Go JSON. We called it the munger. That would it had all these JSON jobs that was very lenient in what it would accept as JSON. And then it, even had like rules that, certain things that it was happy to fix, and added additional features like, oh, if this piece of is missing in the data, that when you pluck it back out into like a struct in Go, that it would apply a certain value, like a default value. Because in Go, it's like if you make an integer and you don't tell it what to be at first, it's 0. Or if you make a Boolean, it's false, and that type of thing. Is it has a value. It doesn't just have no value. It has one of those values. But in our munger machine, you could make it be like, well, the default really should be 2 or something. Yeah, which it's quite nice. So now it becomes like a cultural thing. Like if you're going to parse some JSON, just use our munger.
Yeah.
It's safer,
The machine does it right, yeah.
Yeah, it does it right.
Yeah, I always found it funny, like, you write an object, you can do like key value, like as a string, value in quotes, but if you like copy paste that object and put it in a file called like object.json, it's like, dude, what? Keys have to have quotes around them, and some of that's our linter, but like it doesn't care, but like there is a right way to have it,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's just this like, I don't know. We're going to end on this, but as a podcast, are we anti-JSON? Hear me out. You can't leave comments in JSON. No Y column.
No Y column. That's rough.
I have to like $comment
we had a conversation
or something
about JSON-C just yesterday at work.
Yeah.
It was complicated in a way. That's why I think Microsoft is so badass for shipping. I don't think it's JSON-C. I think it's JSON 5. Maybe it is. Yeah, whatever one ships in VS Code, which just straight up lets you leave comments in there, is such a badass choice that I worship it. And they don't even call it. They don't even use a fancy extension. It's just JSON. They're like, this is better JSON, so that's what we're going to use.
That's what we support. We support
kicks
that.
Ass.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, podcasts are also XML, by their nature. And sure, we don't publish a JSON feed. I'm a fan of it, but like, I don't know. Like to me, it just means like we got it. Our podcast plugin would need to just start supporting it because I don't really feel like hand manipulating the plugin we already use to produce an additional JSON feed.
So we're anti-JSON pro XML.
Yeah,
that's a place I didn't expect to find myself in life. That's interesting.
Right.
Truly, this is the episode of the beast.
It's such a systemic thing too. That's the world that we live in. Like, when we're 60,
well, easy.
Yeah,
let's stretch it out a bit. Okay, good.
I eat enough French bread pizzas. I might not make it to 60 either. But
yeah.
Is there a world where XML is actually dead? Because sometimes big changes actually happen, but sometimes you're like, I can't. Like the world of podcasting is too sparse and spread out and stuff that like. I don't know what, even if a major player were to change something, I don't even know if they would have enough power to
kill XML.
really change it.
Yeah.
It would have to be like Spotify gets so big that's just how people think of podcasts now, and all the other podcasts kind of slowly die out or something. It would be for the
Apple
worse, for sure.
Extinction level event. Like we are not supporting XML.
It would be an extinction level event. You're right.
And that would actually maybe be fair for them. Like parsing XML isn't sweet. I mean, we all have old libraries that do it, but like you could easily be like, dude, we just can't do it. We're not doing it.
Yeah.
So,
but unfortunately, they wouldn't be like, well, we have this new format, and if you do the new format, then you're in. That doesn't seem like the way it would go. It seems more likely that we're just like, we just don't do that at all anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be a bummer.
Yeah, no,
I don't see it. I think XML will hold on for worse too, because it's just. I think the world has decided it actually isn't that good, and the strictness of JSON, despite its many faults, is actually just a better data format.
It is. It's
Is it though?
Well, I think it's. I think it's walkable. I think it's kind of the issue, right? Like you're like, which is kind of the problem with HTML in. It's kind of like, is this like a property on the element or is this a child of the element? Like, do I need to like you're building out some sort of... At the same
conference where we saw Crockford talk about this or not? I can't remember.
Maybe like
Have
a
you ever seen him?
TXJS. Yeah, I've seen him talk about it.
Talk about JSON?
Yeah.
Maybe. He has like a mistakes in JSON thing or whatever, and he has some new data format that he's trying to make. But he's such a hardcore computer scientist that his new data format just absolutely flies over my head.
Like, you gotta tie the glorps to the chain.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, and you're like, okay.
And I'm sure it's smart.
But he's
or whatever,
the same
but
guy who's like, I'm never going to update JSON ever in my life. There will be no
but he has
JSON.
Compelling reasons for that. That like what do you get out of the breaking change? Like you probably don't get as much as the pain
Lots
of the
of NPM
changes.
packages. Croc, come on.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get Cinder Soros rich on making these NPM packages.
I think we're better where we are now is that like just let JSON-C or 5 get really popular and generally support both, and just like slowly evolve towards the better spec. But it depends on how complicated that spec is, because he also has another nerd power move that I like, where he has this business card and he has the entire spec of JSON on the business card, and you're like, yeah, beat that as a language,
I put a jQuery Fitbids on the back of this business card. Here you go.
Yeah. Or it just injects aspect ratio now.
Yeah.
It's a little smaller.
Here you go. Things improved. Yeah.
Got better.
Yeah. It's document aspect ratio, and there's not even like, it's just literally like a template literal I'm injecting, because it'd just be like a video dot height divided by video dot width or whatever. It'd be so easy. Anyway.
Absolutely. Is that what it ended up as in the end?
Pretty much. I have actually a vanilla Fitvids, I think, on my
yeah, but that's just means it's not jQuery, but does it actually use aspect ratio in CSS?
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
Instead.
Nice.
Yeah.
Of the padding top bullshit.
Let me give there was a reason FitVids was useful. I'm good. Can I just say that? It's actually still in use quite a bit, but it was useful for like, because we had this whole like object, like you could put a video in an object or an embed, and like we handled all that for a bit, like so like, and that's how like you delivered Flash movies was in these object tags, and then it became common to do the iframe and put a height and width on it, right? And then we want the iframe to be responsive, and so anyway, the one trick you could do was object width equals 100%, and the browser understands that, and it would just be like, I'm always 100% wide, and so we had to kind of like,
it didn't have the aspect ratio.
Yeah, it
right?
didn't have an aspect ratio, so we kind of accounted for that. So you can't just like slurp up a height and a width and like figure it out, but it's
yeah, it was actually, so it was never that much code, but part of it was the reason you'd reach for it is because it had some edge case stuff in there that it would catch for you, which is a great reason to use a library, right? That it wouldn't, it worked on all sorts of different stuff. Yeah, the object tag is a great example of that. Like, did you think of that? No? Well, the library you're using caught it for you, so there you go.
Yeah, but don't use Fitbits would be the the rule there.
Not anymore.
You don't need it.
Yeah, your day is coming where even fit text will be fully done.
Dude, I'm excited about that. Lettering.js, probably not. I actually wouldn't recommend Lettering.js. So just too many spans. Don't do the spans. So much spans. But yeah, no, I mean there's like, we're in a good place on the internet, man. Like even like
yeah, right?
It's never been easier to make a website. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Please do. It's good for the world.
The world needs it. So
or they need your soul. Thank you for subscribing to your podcatcher of choice. Be sure to not heart, because that's not very demonic. You
feel free to hate, cross off, and destroy.
Yeah, hate, cross off, and destroy.
Thanks. Anyway, join us in the Discord, patreon.com/shop.show. Chris, you got anything
you'd like to say?
Just thank you for joining us for our super half-assed 666 episode.
I know.
Only on my half.
Should I go get a costume? Should I thought about wearing like makeup, and I was like, cause my daughter would have done it to me, but I was even just like, nah, I'm just not. Look, man, I'm just not. And then I'm going to forget about makeup and I'm going to join a Teams call. It's not going to go well. I'll have some explaining to do. So
yeah, no, the magic of Shop Talk is our
half commitment to everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Which leads to longevity.
Yeah. Don't people get that?
Yeah. Just saying. All right. We have a special guest next week. It's going to be cool. But I'm not going to tell you who it is because as soon as I do it, that means it will fall through.
That's how they cancel. So.
Yeah. Okay. See you later. Bye.
Shop.show.com.
Shop.show.com.